To give us a bit more perspective on Umaru Yar'Adua's legacy and the impact he's had on Nigeria, we're now joined by Opeyemi AgBaje, the CEO of Resource and Trust Company. Mr. AgBaje, thank you very much for your time. Just give us a sense of the mood within corporate Nigeria following news of the death of Umaru Yar'Adua.
Okay, well, at a personal level, I mean, Nigerians sympathize with the loss of, over the loss of the president. We knew he was ill, and he was not much of a shock that he has passed on. But Nigerians feel the loss. But that's at the personal level. Business continues, many offices are open, and I think at the political level, there's probably a feeling that finally we can have some closure on the lingering uncertainty around the presidency. All
right, and closure also means a decisive mandate for Goodluck Jonathan now that the presidential and executive authority of the presidential office has been transferred to him. But effectively, what does that mean? Because Mr. Jonathan has been an acting president for the last 3 months and has even stamped out his authority by reshuffling the cabinet.
Well, yes, certainly this represents the final page in Jonathan's consolidation as president. Yeah, he had become de facto president, but he didn't have the full constitutional powers behind him. For instance, he couldn't appoint a vice president. This now will lead, I'm sure, to the appointment of a vice president, likely to be from the Muslim North, and that would also help the regime's political consolidation, because it would then give him some level of stakeholders from the northern part of Nigeria. He may also be able now to replace personal appointees of the president, who he has not technically had the power to replace, because the president was still the president. So he could replace special advisors, special assistants, personal staff in the Aso Rock, the presidential villa, and therefore it marks some political consolidation for Goodluck Jonathan.
All right. Despite the changing in the political complexion of the current administration, does business expect relative continuity of policies and programs, given that the Goodluck Jonathan administration will run only for a year?
I think the expectations from this regime clearly have to be limited, given the time available and the circumstances. But there's one area in which everybody, or at least 2 areas, in which everybody hopes that Jonathan can make an impact, and in which we do expect him to make an impact. And one is power, and the second is electoral reform. In power, there are signs that President Jonathan will move faster than the Yar'Adua era. I think there's also an ideological difference. The Yar'Adua regime preferred a state-led strategy for power, which was clearly a failure. And we expect President Jonathan to move away from that approach, allow private investment, complete the implementation of the Power Sector Reform Act, and allow private sector investments and entrepreneurial skills in the power sector.
All right, let's talk about the legacy of Umaru Yar'Adua, and let's start off with the successes. He was personally involved in the brokering of an amnesty and a peace program for the Niger Delta. Now that he has died, do you expect the momentum in that process to be upheld? Many are concerned that the peace process will unravel.
The amnesty clearly was President Yar'Adua's only significant legacy. That is positive, that is. But I expect that Goodluck Jonathan will pursue that scheme. Indeed, being from the region, he has the moral authority to even advance the amnesty and the general development of the Niger Delta faster than than even Yar'Adua did. However, I think that the threats to the amnesty this time will come from politics. Increasingly in the region, we're seeing conflicts in Bayelsa State between the governor and the vice and the deputy governor. In Delta State, James Ibori, the former governor, who is still influential, is wanted for corruption. And so we know that some of these crises, political conflicts, have some bearing on the activities of the militants. And so for me, the bigger threat will come not from Jonathan's commitment to the amnesty, which I think will be strong, but from the politics of the region that could lead to conflict.
All right, what's also significant, though, is that the late president lent his personal support to the newly appointed governor of the Nigerian Central Bank in investigating the activities of banks, seizing the toxic assets of bad banks and pursuing banking reforms. And that's also regarded as a success of the Yar'Adua administration. What's your view?
There's a mixed view today about the effects of the banking reform. Yes, some of us are clear in our minds that you needed to clean up the banking sector, but the management of the exercise, many argue, have damaged the broader economy. We expect the Goodluck Jonathan regime to be more concerned about the effect on the national economy. And therefore, Lamido Sanusi may not enjoy the degree of political support from this regime as he did under Yar'Adua. Indeed, the National Security Advisor is on record to have lamented the impact of these banking actions on the economy. So to the extent that the Goodluck regime will be concerned about economic growth, development, restoring financial flows, there may be pressure on Lamido Sanusi to resolve the outstanding logjam, yes.
All right, let's talk about the negatives of what happened in Nigeria under the leadership and the tenure of President Umaru Yar'Adua. You mentioned earlier on the persistent energy crisis, and this is significant because as part of his election promises, he promised to deal with the energy supply issues ASAP. That hasn't happened, and neither have we seen significant action in terms of dealing with petrol shortages, even though there are petroleum industry bill reforms being proposed at the moment. What can be done to really deal with that shortcoming and impediment right now?
The clear solution to the power problem in Nigeria, funny enough, lies in a law that is already the law of the country. We have the Electric Power Sector Reform Act that mandates the unbundling, the privatization of 17 generation and distribution entities. It seeks to create an independent power regulator. The Yar'Adua regime clearly did not have commitment to that law. They essentially destroyed the independence of the regulator, and they have refused to proceed with the unbundling and the privatization of the PHC and the power entities. I think the biggest thing that Goodluck Jonathan can do is to accelerate the implementation of that law, change the structure of the power sector from a government monopoly that is inefficient to a competitive private sector industry that enjoys private capital inflows and all of that. And deal with the issue of pricing and availability of gas so that gas can be available to power the Nigerian economy.